Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in tonight. As Kerry said, my name is Paul Stanbury. I work in the Naturetrek office alongside Kerry. Been with the company now for over 25 years. I look after a lot of destinations scattered around the world, but in particular sub-Saharan Africa and East Africa, in Tanzania. So I'm going to talk tonight about Tanzania, in particular northern Tanzania and the national parks along the close to the border with Kenya. It's only one of the most fabulous places anywhere in the world for wildlife. Home to some of the greatest concentrations of mammals on the continent and again probably in the world. So where is Tanzania? So hopefully this is going to work. Great, good, it is working. So Tanzania is East Africa, south of the equator. Across the water actually from Madagascar, where Kerry took you a little earlier, and we fly from London down to Kenya, and then there's a short hop from Nairobi across to northern Tanzania to Arusha, and where we start our trips. So this is a map from the Naturetrek brochure, just outlining the main wildlife areas of northern Tanzania and the route that we take on our Tanzania Highlights holiday, a trip we've been running for many years. We operate this trip in January, February time, in November as well. As shown here, we fly into Arusha, and then we explore the main wildlife areas of northern Tanzania. Arusha National Park, down into Tarangire National Park, Lake Manyara, up into the Crater Highlands to visit the world famous Ngorongoro crater, and then over to the equally famous Serengeti National Park as well. And this is a 2-week holiday. So we operate this in January, February time, and at that time of year, the wildebeest are down in the southern Serengeti, and also in November as well. Whatever time you get of year you go to the Serengeti, to go to Tanzania, there's always a fabulous amount of diversity of wildlife to enjoy. But for the next 15 minutes or so, I'm just going to take you through some of these national parks and show you some of the wildlife highlights to look out for. So the vehicles we use in Tanzania are great for both wildlife spotting and for the keen photographers amongst you. We take 6 people per vehicle. Everybody gets a window seat. You can see from this photograph here that the windows open on the side. And when you're out in the national parks doing your safaris, they open up the guide will open up the roof so you can stick your head out the top, and great visibility, great for photographs as well. And the trips are made really by the local guides. The guides are really very friendly, very nice people, and they're great naturalists as well. They are superb at spotting the wildlife. They know their birds, they know their mammals, and they really will help to make a holiday a very special and unforgettable experience. And with some of our Tanzania trips, we also send a UK leader out as well. So if you like to be escorted out from the UK, then we will send a UK tour leader out to join the local staff. Oops, one 2 minutes. Right, so after we fly into Arusha, we have a little look around Arusha National Park, and then we move to Tarangire National Park. And Tarangire is it's a mix of grassland, acacia scrub, wetlands, about 2,600 square kilometres, and is centred along the Tarangire River. And this is a photograph here of the Tarangire River. The landscape is dotted with these amazing, huge baobabs, and it's just a lovely park to explore, full of fantastic wildlife as well. It's particularly good for elephants, herds, especially in the dry season, of up to 300 elephants congregating along the Tarangire River here. I say here, plenty of elephants to see. Elephants actually are relatively common throughout many of the national parks in Tanzania, but Tarangire in particular has some high concentrations. There are giraffes here, Maasai giraffes in Tarangire, and a wonderful variety of bird as well. There's over 550 species of bird occur within the national park. This is a white-headed buffalo weaver, and the beautiful, superb glossy starling. This is a very common bird throughout Tanzania, and one you'll see frequently, probably daily on this trip. And when the sun catches the blue feathering on the back, the iridescence really is quite spectacular. Maybe not quite so attractive is the marabou stork, another common bird you see throughout the country. They serve a very important purpose in the country. They're scavengers, and they'll join the vultures and the hyenas on the kills and help clean up the landscape. Tarangire is probably the place to look for wild dogs. They are difficult to see in Tanzania, but of all the national parks in the north of the country, Tarangire is probably the one place where you do stand a chance of seeing this amazing predator. If you're particularly keen on wild dogs, then you could think about going south to Selous and Ruaha, and those two parks are particularly good for dog sightings. And then after, we have a couple of nights in Tarangire National Park, and we move the short distance to Lake Manyara National Park. And this is a much smaller park, only 330 square kilometers, centered around the Lake Manyara itself, a soda lake. We're right on the bottom of the Rift Valley here, right on the edge of the Rift Valley escarpment, which you can see to the right of this photograph, which would go up onto the Ngorongoro highlands. It's a small park, but it's a really lovely little park to visit, home again to some really nice wildlife, some nice mammals and birds. The bird life, again, very prolific, similar number of species to Tarangire, about 500 and 550 or so. Southern ground hornbill here is quite an easy bird to see, along with a variety of other smaller hornbills as well. Some interesting mammals. This is the little Kirk's dik-dik, one of the smallest antelopes in Tanzania, and again, quite commonly seen both here and in Tarangire. There are lions in Lake Manyara National Park, and they are quite special lions because they quite often climb up into trees and spend the heat of the day relaxing up in trees. To actually see this in reality is quite difficult, but you may strike lucky and you may see the famous tree climbing lions of Lake Manyara National Park. And then after a night, in fact, we spend our night on the top of the escarpment overlooking the Rift Valley. The lodges here, spectacular view out over the Rift Valley. But after a night there, we head up into the Ngorongoro Highlands, up into the Crater Highlands, and pass into the famous Ngorongoro Conservation Area. And we're heading up, of course, to one of the most famous sites anywhere in Africa, the very famous Ngorongoro crater itself, often touted as the eighth wonder of the world. And this is a collapsed volcanic caldera that collapsed about 3 million years ago. It's up to 600 meters deep, 20 kilometers across, and it protects one of the world's great one of the world's great wildlife havens. And we stay in a very nice lodge here as well. There's the Sopa Lodge, which is perched right on the top of the crater rim. You're going to have a dip in the pool and have this amazing view in front of you. It's only about 10 minutes from the descent road as well that takes you from the crater rim down onto the crater floor. And you can see from this photo, not only the swimming pool, but behind the swimming pool, you've got the quite thick forest, and the edge of the crater is covered in thick forest, home to some quite interesting birds and wildlife. The beautiful golden-winged sunbird lives up in this area. An absolutely gorgeous bird that lives up on the top in the cooler forest that edge the crater. When you wake up in the morning, it's quite chilly up in the Ngorongoro crater rim. It's worth having a jacket with you before you descend onto the crater floor, where it's that little bit warmer. Equally attractive scarlet-chested sunbird, as well as another species to look out for. And we'll take you down, of course, onto the crater floor to enjoy the spectacle of the wildlife here. And so there's permanent water within the Ngorongoro, so the animals are resident here. There's maybe up to it's very large herds of buffalo, and here you can see the big five as well. So buffalo, elephant, leopard, lion, and rhino too. There are elephants down on the crater here. We're looking out, of course, sat on the crater floor, looking out towards the escarpment behind. The crater opens at 6:30 in the morning, so we'll try and get our groups down. We will get our groups down very early in the morning, and then you take a packed breakfast, have a packed lunch with you, so you can spend the whole day exploring the crater floor. I mentioned the big five. Well, this is a great place to look for black rhino. Sadly, a much persecuted species in Africa in general, but there's still a very healthy population living on the crater floor. In the centre of the Ngorongoro crater is the wonderful Lake Magadi. This is a soda lake, and at certain times of the year, it's full of lesser flamingos. And unlike Lake Manyara, which you can't actually get very close to, Lake Magadi you can drive quite close to, so you can enjoy the spectacle of the flamingos, as well as looking at the wading birds, black-winged stilt, a variety of migrant waders, all feeding along the very edge of the lakeshore. And then take lots of birds to enjoy in the Ngorongoro, as well as lots of mammals as well. Grey-crowned cranes are common here. Beautiful bird with this wonderful bright punkish hairstyle. The Kori bustard, one of the world's heaviest flying birds. You'll see them displaying out on the crater floor, and this one here has two chicks down by its feet. The beautiful rosy-throated longclaw, a type of very attractive pipit that's commonly seen down on the crater floor. And during the time of our visits, February, March time, there are a lot of migrant birds use the crater as a stopover on their way north up into Europe. Now, I was there a few years ago. It was absolutely full of barn swallows, of owl swallow, loads and loads of swifts, wonderful variety of yellow wagtails, and really interesting plethora of birds heading north up towards Europe and Asia to breed. And European rollers as well, lots of European rollers on their way north up into Europe. Of course, as well as the birds, plenty of wherever there's plenty of game, you'll find the predators. Lions are particularly abundant down in Ngorongoro crater. Now, I put this particular photo in not to scare you away from going to Tanzania, but to say that although the crater can get crowded at times, we're very good at avoiding the crowds on Naturetrek tours. And the way to do that is just to get down to the crater floor early. Most people have a leisurely breakfast. They get down on the crater floor about 9, 10 o'clock, hang around until early afternoon, and then go. So if you're there in those first couple of hours of daylight and the last couple of hours of daylight, you get the crater. It's much quieter, and you can avoid the crowds. As you might guess, these particular crowds were after a group of lions. You can see the tail of a lion just sticking out here from behind that jeep. So we go down first thing in the morning, and the light is better first thing in the morning for photography, and the animals are active as well by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Most of the lions are typically laying down and will sleep for the rest of the day. But if you're down there at first light, then the animals are active and out and hunting, and the birds are more active as well. Rufous-naped lark here in full song is one of the familiar sounds of the crater first thing in the morning. Then from the crater, we head back up into the highlands and drop down into the grassy plains of the Ngorongoro conservation area and the world famous Serengeti. So we time our trips for say February, March time, when the migration does a clockwise circular route around the Serengeti, moving down into the short grass plains around Ndutu in December to May time, and then gradually making their way further north up towards Kenya for October, November time. So the animals, the wildebeest, so there's 1.2 million wildebeest migrate annually around the Serengeti, and they follow the rains. So in November, December time, the short rains have watered the short grass plains down in the southern Serengeti and create this very rich new growth of grass, and attract down the vast herds. And you'll get to see this spectacle of a sea of wildebeest stretching to the horizon. So over 1.2 million animals come down here, and they're joined by over 250,000 zebra, 500,000 gazelle. So it really is a spectacular sight and sound. We split our time in Serengeti between a couple of nights in the centre of the park and 2 nights down in the south around the Ndutu area, staying in one of the lovely little temporary tented camps that are set up down here. Very nice beds. They've got their own ensuite bush loos and showers. And we'll be right in the heart of the action and go out and looking for the Grant's gazelle, such as this, and their smaller cousin, the Thompson's gazelle as well. And wherever you've got such a huge abundance of game, of course, the predators will follow. And there's thought to be over 2,000 lions in the Serengeti region. And this is a great place for cheetah as well. Cheetah like the wide open grassy plains, and they prey on the gazelles. And if you're lucky, cheetah might decide to use your vehicle as a lookout post. They like to get a bit of elevation where they can scan for not only for prey, but look for larger predators as well. And on this particular occasion, this mother with 2 large cubs decided they'd jump up on top of our safari vehicle and use it as a lookout. And the leopard as well is the last of those 3 big cats that we hope to see during our time in Tanzania. But one animal our groups have been particularly lucky to see over the years is serval, and we've probably seen more serval on our Tanzania tours than any of all of our other safaris put together. And wherever you've got the predators and you've got the game and you've got the prey, you've got the scavengers as well. And spotted hyenas are common within the park. Lots of, still fortunately, quite a few vultures down here. A family in general has been very heavily persecuted around the world. There's a large leopard-faced vulture here. Some other interesting animals to look for. If you go out in the evening, you've got a good chance of seeing the wonderful bat-eared fox, and plenty of birds as well. Birds all over the place. Secretary birds, the beautiful white-throated bee-eater, lots of lilac-breasted rollers all over the place as well. Real kaleidoscope of different birds to enjoy. And although our main tours don't visit this particular spot, we can just put a couple of slides in at the end just to illustrate some extensions that we can offer. We can take you to Lake Natron in northern, right up near the Kenyan border, right down in the Rift Valley and overlooked by the active volcano of Odo Lengai. Lake Natron has one of the main breeding site for lesser flamingos in the whole of southern Africa. And if you want to have a relax as well after your Tanzanian safari, we can take you out to Zanzibar Island, where you can have a few days on a lovely sandy palm fringe beach to relax and soak up the sun before heading back to the UK. So I'll end here